Yeah, we had a great turnout in the 2008 election. In fact, we had one of the highest turnouts in decades. But the turnout in Georgia went up in comparison to other states that also went up. I mean, for example, Mississippi, neighboring state, large African-American population, just like Georgia, the increase in turnout there was only about a third what it was in Georgia. Indiana...
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Do you know how much Mississippi grew in terms of black population during those years versus Georgia?
I don't, but I do know.
Wouldn't that, excuse me,
yeah.
I'm sorry, wouldn't that have to factor in then to the significance of that?
It certainly does, but the Georgia Secretary of State recently noted that, in fact, for example, in the 2010 elections, the turnout of African Americans outpaced their growth and registration by like 20%.
Here's my question. You did a study and you put in your testimony that it was significant that the percentage of black voters grew more in Georgia than in Mississippi. You just cited it again. But I would think that as someone who writes studies, that it would be significant just to know that the black population in Georgia grew at more than 4 times the rate than the black population in Mississippi. And I'm wondering how you didn't factor that in and put all kinds of significance into the fact that the percentage of blacks who voted grew more in Georgia than in Mississippi, when in fact Georgia was, I think, the second highest next to Kentucky in terms of percentage of growth of black population during the last decade. Well, don't you think that that's a little sloppy, that you put that in without noting that Georgia grew at more than 4 times the rate that Mississippi did? And didn't that create an inference? I have to go. I'm sorry. I mean, doesn't that create...
Do you want me to answer the question or not? Or
it's I'm sorry. It's more than 3 times the rate, not 4 times the rate. I apologize.
Well, I mean, all you're telling me, Senator, is that the increase in turnout kept up with the rate of growth, which is just another sign that it did not affect or depress the turnout.
Yeah, well, I was basically kind of saying that you put something in your testimony that suggested something that wasn't necessarily, that created an inference that wasn't true.
Well, I would disagree with that, Senator.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to really argue with it because you didn't note that Georgia's black population grew at a much, much, much faster rate than Mississippi's, and yet all you did was put that their black voting rate increased more, and I think that's creating an inference that either you knew it or you didn't know it, but I think you should have checked it out.